Hello everyone. Welcome back to the AWS Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp series. In today's video, we are diving into AWS Shared Responsibility Model, one of the most important but often misunderstood concept in AWS cloud security. This is the blueprint for who handle what when it comes to protecting systems on AWS. By end of this video, you will be able to recognize the concepts of AWS Shared Responsibility Model, describe AWS responsibilities, describe the customer's responsibility on AWS, and you will be able to understand how responsibilities shift depending on AWS services, that is from EC2 to RDS to Lambda. On behalf of the CloudExpert Solutions team, I would like to thank you for joining us and exploring this video. If you have already subscribed to our channel, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. It truly means a lot to our team. If you haven't subscribed yet, we kindly invite you to do so and gain access to premium cloud courses and certification bootcamps, all for free. Let's get started. We will start with what is the AWS Shared Responsibility Model. The Shared Responsibility Model is AWS's way of dividing cloud security and compliance tasks between the cloud provider or AWS and you as customer. This model ensures clarity in compliance and governance. The easiest way to remember this model is that AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud and you as a customer is responsible for the security in the cloud. This one phrase, security of the cloud and security in the cloud, could guide you most of your decisions. To clarify even further, let me take a real life example. Think of like renting an apartment. The landlord handles building maintenance and anything outside the building. But you handle what happens inside your unit. Now let's understand what AWS manages. AWS as a cloud provider secures the physical security of the data centers, the hardware, the networks, software stack like hypervisor, control plane, global infrastructure, that is AWS regions, availability zones, edge locations, and everything that supports the cloud platform, that is their domain. You never have to worry about patching the physical servers or securing the racks. AWS ensures that the racks in the data centers are physically secured and that servers are updated at the hardware level. Now, what you should manage. Your job starts with what you deploy, starting from managing the user access and IAM roles, encryption and classification of the data that you store in the AWS cloud, securing your application code, setting up the firewall, and if you are spinning up any EC2 instance or virtual machine, then applying the security patches or guest operating system patches will be your responsibility. As an example, if you have an S3 bucket, which is public, that's on you. AWS won't make it private unless and until you configure it to become private. Now there are some responsibilities which are shared between you and AWS, and let's review them one by one. To start with encryption, AWS provides the tools like AWS KMS or Key Management Service, but you must configure the keys and use them for your encryption or to store the data at rest. Next, patch management. AWS patches servers and they manage patches for databases like RDS. However, you should patch the guest operating system of the virtual machines or EC2 instances that you are provisioning. And the last, compliance. Compliance is a shared responsibility between you and AWS, where AWS provides compliance-ready infrastructure. But you as a customer is responsible for using that infrastructure correctly and making your application compliance ready. As an example, if you use RDS, which is a database service offering, and store regulated data, then you must configure RDS securely to remain compliant even though AWS maintains the database engine. If you have a requirement for PCI DSS compliance, then you have to make sure all the PCI DSS compliance requirement you are taking care when you are storing those data in RDS. Whereas AWS will take care all those aspects which is related to the infrastructure. Now this responsibility line shifts depending on the service. That means if you are using EC2, you are responsible for operating system patches, which is guest operating system, application configurations, firewall rules, whereas AWS is responsible for physical infrastructure, virtualization software stack like hypervisor. But if you choose RDS, which is a platform as service, then AWS will take the OS patching responsibility from your shoulder along with the database engine and infrastructure management. Whereas you as a customer is responsible for database schema, data encryption, access control and scaling. If you move to function as service or AWS Lambda, then AWS takes care everything starting from infrastructure, runtime, also scaling. And you as a customer only manages the function code and IAM permissions. From this grid, you can understand the more managed the service is, the less you are responsible for any technicality, but you still own the security configuration and data governance. Now let's review your understanding with some real life scenarios. Let's assume you have a public S3 bucket. Whose responsibility is that? If you are thinking this is customer's responsibility, you are absolutely correct. Moving to second scenario, you have an unpatched EC2 instance. And if you are thinking that is again customer's responsibility, you are correct. Moving to third, you have a database which is down due to AWS region outage. Who is responsible for that? If you are thinking this is AWS's responsibility, you are absolutely correct. And moving to our last scenario, you have a Lambda function and the Lambda function is getting timed out. Who is responsible for that? This will be customer's responsibility. If the Lambda function is getting timed out, then you as a customer should fix your code or fix your configurations to increase the timeout of the Lambda function. If you have predicted all the options correctly, then you have understood the shared responsibility model. If you fumble to determine the answer, then I would like to request you, please review the slides one more time. And before we conclude this video, here is a summary, and this summary is very important for your examination. Especially if you are taking AWS Cloud Practitioner certifications, this grid can help you to get 4 to 5 answers correct. If you are taking AWS Solution Architect Associate, then you can use this slide to answer 1 to 2 questions that will appear during the certification exam. To start with, global infrastructure. This is AWS's responsibility. It is not customer's responsibility, neither a shared responsibility. Data encryption. That is a shared responsibility because AWS provides the infrastructure or the AWS KMSs and you have to use that KMS or you have to use those keys to encrypt your data. When it comes to IAM policies, it will be your responsibility. Although AWS has AWS managed policies, but it is your responsibility to use and apply those policies. EC2 guest operating system patching, again it is customer's responsibility and AWS is not going to patch the guest operating system. When it comes to patching RDS database, RDS is a managed service. AWS is solely responsible for patching the RDS database engine. And last but not least, when it comes to compliance configuration, it will be a shared responsibility. AWS is responsible for compliance of the infrastructure and you will be responsible for compliance of the applications that you are deploying into AWS. That wraps up this module. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more AWS exam preparation courses and cloud certification bootcamps. Got questions or feedback? Drop them in the comment. We love to hear from you. Thanks for learning with us at CloudExpert Solutions. You are now one step closer to crushing your exam. See you in the next module.